And here he's Michael Fabiano from Madrid. Hi, Michael. The last time I
Hello,
saw,
maestro.
the last time I saw you, the last time we were working together was a lot of years ago, a few years ago, was for the Tucker Gala, and you had won the Tucker Prize. And I remember, I mean, I've done a few of those Tucker Prize concerts in New York. It's like the grand messe of our industry, and it's a huge honor to get that prize. It's also a privilege to conduct that concert, and it's one of those amazingly decadent concerts where you have the best singers in the world, usually the Met Orchestra, which arguably is one of the best, if not the best, opera orchestra in the world. It's you were absolutely stunning, in great form. You were this upcoming tenor already with quite an established career, but a trajectory to being a major star. And here you are a major star, and you are in Madrid, being one of the lucky people performing in this time of COVID-19. So how are those traviata going, and how are they different or not than a normal traviata out of COVID nightmare?
Well, I think it's a great question. First of all, yes, I remember those concerts the concert we did in 2014. My God, it was 2014, 6 years ago already. It's a privilege to be here. I want to state that. It's a real privilege because I know so many of our colleagues are without work now and for the next many months, maybe up to 9 months, it looks like in some cases. And so I count my blessings that I was on, this was an engagement that I had the opportunity to do, and that I happened to be the first American really to get over to Europe and perform, which was really special. And I'm very grateful for it. It's also a reminder that our art is essential. It's an essential form of work. And so I want to convey a story to you before I even tell you about everything, is that when I went through passport control to come to Europe, I stopped in Amsterdam, and the passport controlman said to me, "You cannot enter, you have to go back to the United States." And I said, "But that doesn't make any sense. I was already cleared, I have a visa, I have the stamp from the government, I have all these things." "Yes, but you are not essential." And I said, "With all due respect, I am essential." I said, "Not only is what I do in the world of culture essential for humanity, fine. I am an essential worker as affirmed by the government, the Ministry of Culture, and I get paid from the Ministry of Culture and the state. And so, as far as I'm concerned, music and culture are essential, and I am opening up the doors of culture on July 1st in Spain. So you should let me in." And the man was a little surprised, and he says, "Well, I don't believe you." I said, "Go look at Google. Look at it right now. Type in my name and see who I am." And he did. And then he put me in this room for 3 hours. And 3 hours later, he came back with his head down and he said that he made the appropriate calls and realized, yes, I was in fact essential. And so I gave this speech in our press conference in Madrid 3 or 4 days later. I said, "Somos esenciales." We are essential. We are essential workers. What we do as culture transmits something bigger than ourselves to the rest of the world. And if we don't send that message right now to everybody, that music is catharsis, music is something that unites all of us, music is the same for all of us, whether or not we have different colors of skin. It's a language on its own. If we don't commit that to that message, not everybody's going to believe it, and we're going to be the last to get back to work. And I'm fearful that there are some leaders that are not in our business, especially in the United States right now, not communicating this message strongly enough. And so we are essential. That's what I want to say. So it's the privilege to be here. I'm happy to be here. Madrid is taking incredible care of us. When I got to the theater, we had our COVID tests. We walk in, we have to wear masks. They give us a new mask. We have our temperature taken. We have our shoes scrubbed. We constantly are told to wear masks even right before we walk on stage. There are so many health protocols that are terrific, that make all of us performers feel safe, that make the public feel safe. And they've created a framework for everybody else around the world to be able to commit to the arts and get it done. And I'm very proud to be here.
So just one first, I think what you said is absolutely brilliant, true, and obviously heartfelt. And it's not only, I know it's not only about you and being able to have a gig. It's about what we do. It's about our mission. And I would say very often people in our industry try to make a point that our industry is vital economically from a money point of view, from a dollar point of view. And that is true, but that's not enough. That's not the only reason. That means we probably bring to a city more than we cost to that city, actually way more, through, you know, restaurants, hotels, and all the people that are working for us. But what we bring is food for the souls. And what is a city? What is a community? What is a culture if that soul is not fed, is not really respected, energized, challenged in any way? And that's what opera is doing, and that's what opera can do. When you talk about, you know, all the protocol you have at the Teatro Real now in Madrid, where you're singing this Traviata, can we start with the audience? What's happening in the audience? Do you have full audiences?
I'll tell you everything. So no, right now we are at 50% capacity. And just as an overview for your audience who's watching, wondering, how do we do this in America? Well, they had a panel of many medical officials from the National Health Services here and other doctors evaluate how to very safely place patrons in the theater in a safe configuration. So droplets and the air, you know, the airborne nature of the virus would have a very limited effect. So they've staggered seating so that no one is within 2 meters of each other, unless they're 2 seats together for couples.
A little more than 6 feet, 2 meters, yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, six feet more or less.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're staggered, and I have to say, I was a patron, so I also went and watched some of my other colleagues sing, and I got to experience it from the patron angle as well. And I have to say that people are very well staggered and spaced out, so you never feel that someone's coughing on your neck, or if someone's breathing, you can feel their breath. There's no space like that. So if that's your fear, that fear is taken care of. But more than that, they do things that I think are really terrific. They stagger the egress of the theater, meaning they stagger when people can enter and exit the theater. So people that are the closest to the front of the orchestra go first. The people that are near the back, they come at a different time. They literally have outside the times of entry for when different patrons can enter the theater and sit. And the same goes for the intermissions and the end of the show, when they allow different people to exit the theater. That in itself is good, because what it does is it disperses crowding. So people are not crowding near exits. People have to not only wear a mask, but they have to dispose of their mask when they get to the door, and they're given a new mask to wear by the theater. So the mask is a clean, sterile mask. The bottom of their shoes are scrubbed. They're immediately given hand sanitizer. They're immediately given a temperature check. All of those things, not only are they good on a pragmatic sense, but they're good for a psychological sense. Those are psychologically strong things.
And so, they spread the message that one needs to be careful too, even outside of the theater, actually.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of friends and fans and people have made observations to me in social media that why are people subjecting themselves to the virus? Well, I would submit to you that if you don't want to come to opera yet and you're too worried, don't come. But if you are prepared and you feel that you're safe and you're going to follow all the protocol, you're going to be safe, and it's okay to come. Sincerely, I believe that. I was a patron. I just wasn't a performer on the stage. I sat in the hall and I had the same experience as all of you that are watching who are patrons, just so I can empathize with all of you.
Right. I totally agree with you. And it's strange how all of a sudden it's okay to be in a bus. It's okay to go to a bar, because everybody knows that in a bar you are very well in control of yourself and you don't speak too loud and you don't people, you know. Whereas in an opera house, these people, you never know what they're going to do. After the first aria, they might just jump, you know. And it's okay to have restaurants open, but it's not okay to have theaters open. And I think, of course, we need to be cautious. Of course, there is a great responsibility there. Europe has been very good, or quite good to very good, at also have actions that would be really specific to the various areas, the various cities in which you
Of
work. So
course.
there's a moment where you can do that cautiously, and you check, and you have the tests, and you have a system for that. But if a restaurant can be open, if a movie theater can be open, I think an opera house can be open. And what you describe is actually stunning. I didn't know the amount of details there. Let's
Oh,
jump.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to add that Madrid has created a framework that other theaters can use. So they have a book now. So if Dallas or Houston or other theaters want to use it, they should contact the Madrid, the Teatro Real, because they have it. Now, I want to add one thing that I think is something missing in the dialogue with cultural institutions, especially on the American side. Opera theaters, symphonies, Broadway houses, all arms of culture. Aside from medicine, we know safety and health protocol better than anyone. Our stage managers, the people behind the curtain that take care of us artists, they have rules and rules and rules of safety protocol that we follow all the time. So if there's any industry that knows that, it is us. And again, that's messaging. Our leadership should be saying that every single day to build confidence among our patrons. Where is that message? Where is it? I mean, it's very serious. It's very aggravating to me that our leaders are literally not saying this. We have some of the greatest stage managers and directors that live by safety protocol as if it's biblical. And it should be able to breed confidence in the people that show up to the theater. And yet we're not doing that.
Right.
So I would encourage people to start doing it.
Right. Absolutely. I'm into this. And safety is always a priority in theater because the stage, for instance, is a dangerous place. And you and I know this from the very first time we went on stage. The first thing they were saying, careful where you walk, always look up there. There might be something, there might be a trap down there. Be careful when you move from one place to the other. Make sure the stage manager knows you are. Never go on stage unless you are performing. Never even go backstage unless you are performing or it's the end of the show. And these are things that are in our culture, you know, all over the world. I mean, you be it in St. Petersburg or in Dallas or in Madrid, these are things that are in our culture. So you're right. We have a good track record when it comes to those things.
Yes.
So let's move from, I'm very interested at what is happening in the pit. So are the musicians, do they have shields? Is it a bigger pit than usual?
Great question. So as you know, Traviata would usually have 56, 58 instruments, something more or less like that. 50s, low 60s, depending on how you do it. So we have that. But the pit they're using is the Wagner pit rather than the standard pit, because in Madrid it expands from a Baroque Mozart-sized pit all the way out to a 120 instrument pit. So they've broadened the size of the pit to 120 instruments, even though they only are using, I think, 53 instruments right now. Don't quote me on the number. I think it's low 50.
It's probably a little bigger orchestra, but it might be more 60-ish too. But whatever.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be, but I remember hearing only 10 first. That's why I say that 10.
Then that's where you're right. Yeah. 10, 8, 6,
yeah.
5, 4.
10, 8, 6 something. But that's all I know.
Yeah.
But what they are doing is that, first of all, you, maestro, you're more elevated than normal with a plastic shield around you. The maestro stand is almost 2 meters, 6 feet higher than the rest of the orchestra, which is a little strange, but it's because the pit has been lowered lower, so it's way below the eye line of the public. Every single string instrument is on their own stand. There are not 2 instruments to one stand. Every member that does not play an instrument that requires the use of their mouth has to wear a mask at all times. And all of the instruments that are obviously brass, wind, whatever it is, they have not only distance, but they have shields. And so there's quite a large amount of distance and space in the pit, even though when you look at it from a picture, like, oh, there's a lot of people in a pit.
Right.
There's actually a lot of space.
Right.
And it's low. And it's low down. It's much lower than normal.
Right.
Like when I bow at the end of the night, I'm always like this, waving down super low at them instead of like kind of right there. Um,
did it pose any issues of ensemble adapting for the orchestra? Were they feeling a little awkward at first? I suppose they had to find their settings with that.
Personally, I didn't notice it. I find that, first of all, the orchestra here is very highly professional and strong. I know they had a number of orchestra rehearsals, more than the average,
Right.
because of just the environment and because we're doing 27 performances of Traviata, which is unbelievable if you think about it. But it doesn't feel like that. It's actually very well put together, and it's pretty
works.
seamless.
It works. Yeah. It works. But, you know, I mean, in studio recording, for instance, or even for movies or so on, sometimes they really isolate each players like this or even more, and it works. On stage, you were saying you need to wear your mask before you go on stage. Is there any kissing on stage, or is it?
Oh, no. This is one thing that I would like to explain, which is that on the stage, one might not be able to tell unless they look at a very close picture, but the stage has these red squares that are 6 feet by 6 feet, where for the chorus, every chorister stands in the middle or sits in the middle in a chair of their red square. They cannot move. So there's never less than 6 feet between each member in any direction. For the soloists who are in front, the soloists have what we call our islas, our islands that we are on, that are a little bigger than a square, but there's at least 12 feet of space between each island, okay? When the scenes in Traviata do not include the chorus, we have the liberty of moving on the stage freely, but the rule is there always has to be at least one full block, 6 by 6 foot block, in between us. So I cannot be in one and my colleague in the next. I have to be one full block away. And you think, well, why do Traviata if that's true? Well, if you think about it conceptually, Violetta is a very sick woman with syphilis. She's ill. And even from the first act, when she's coughing and oh, qual pallor, all those things in the beginning, her hands are always up, don't come near me, I'm sick. And so, especially in the last act, oh mio Violetta, gioia. Her point is, stay away from me, please stay away from me, I don't want to get you ill. And so we do everything in distance as if I wish I could see her. It's kind of like Boy in the Bubble, the film from the 70s. You can't quite go near her, even though I'm as close as I can. And in light of COVID, it's actually really prescient because I'm sure there are people watching that have had elder folks in their family, maybe younger folks in their family, parents, grandparents, who have passed, and you haven't been able to hold their hands or give them a hug or give them a kiss. And I have to tell you, in the opening night, I lost it in the last 2 minutes of the show because I literally could not hold Violetta in my arms because she is ill. And to think that that is something that everybody else is going through right now, that nature that we cannot be connected in the last moments on earth is very hard. And so it actually works. In a way, it really works.
Very expressive, very strong. That's beautiful. And except for this or with this, is it a fairly traditional staging? Are we in Paris in a 19th century setting, or?
It's kind of timeless, I would say. It's kind of more than concert staged, but less than fully staged. We were supposed to do the Willie Decker production. That was what was planned.
Right.
The famous Willie Decker. And I had done it, Marina had done it, Artur, we all have done it in various places. So we are kind of ad hoc staging it because there's only so much you can do in the configuration we have. But you know what? It's subject to interpretation every night. And one night in the gambling scene, I'm a rabid drunk, and one night I'm irate and insular, and another night I'm super crazy. I've decided that every night I'm going to be a different Alfredo. So that's how I'm going to play.
Be 27 Alfredos, or are you sharing the cast with some of your colleagues?
No, there are 3 other tenors. There are 4 casts. So there are 4 different casts: Ivan Magri, Matthew Polenzani, and Ismail Jordi.
And are you mixing things? Like
we're mixing.
You have a different traviata, or you are always?
No. Each cast stays the same. We don't ever change casts.
Okay, well, okay.
So I'm always with Marina Rebecca and Artur Rusinski every single night.
But good for you, the wonderful artist. This is very inspiring, as you say. This is very moving, and probably the Teatro Real has shown many theaters how to operate under these extraordinary circumstances. It might be more difficult in other theaters where you don't have necessarily the same capacity in terms of pit or audiences, but certainly a lot of theaters can do this. It's also, let's say it between, you and I work a lot in the US. In the US, to have a 50% audience capacity is probably a financial problem, but at one point we might have to cross that bridge too. The other thing that we are all doing now is to increase our relevance and our presence online, because for at least partially, the stage has moved to the screen. And we were just chatting about this. You have launched a new initiative where you are actually teaching online. So can you tell us a little about this? And let me start by this. Were you teaching before, and have you ever taught online before?
Well, I'm doing many things right now. That's one of them. So I started this masterclass series. I call them Mike's Masterclasses. Thank you for asking. I think now that we're in this kind of weird isolation, there's a greater opportunity for me to give back right now. I always say to those who've been given much, much should be given back. And I have a greater opportunity now to do that. And so I'm endeavoring to do that. I've taught 3 classes so far. I have many more planned. I'm not just teaching about the technique of the voice. I'm working with people on how to build careers and how to build plans and make strategy and think about the business of what we do and not just singing. I think sometimes singers get lost in focusing only on singing, and they don't focus enough energy on the strategy for the long haul. And if you have the strategy for the long haul, then you're going to be able to make it work in the short term. So we're talking a lot about that. But I'm doing it in conjunction with a mobile technology platform that I just launched, which is called Resonance. Okay. And it is not my own company. It's a consortium of gentlemen who've been building it. It's a technology platform that allows people to book and hire professionals for last-minute gigs and last-minute appointments, like teachers getting hired by students or young artists getting hired for church jobs or other gigs where they can negotiate and book them and get paid immediately. Resonance is the name of the app. And so one of the requirements for participating in my masterclasses is downloading the app and filling out the profile and becoming a member of the community. And I'm very excited about this product. It's been something that has been in the works for a very long time. I personally had built something like this 7 years ago. It did not succeed. And so when this other group of people came to me and said, would you like to join us? I said, I would love to join you. I have a lot of IP and stuff that I've developed over years. And so we've made a partnership, and now they have this consortium that is live.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not only singers, could it be also instrumentalists? Could it be directors and so on?
It could be fitness instructors, life coaches, anyone that could help the ecosystem of artists do well and have success can be participants and offer their services, get booked immediately, get paid. I always say that time is money. And so many teachers, so many professionals, whether or not it's a therapist or life coach or personal trainer, they spend so much time just emailing back and forth when they can have a time. Even you and I discuss times. Yes. But with this technology, we made it so simple that things happen immediately. You don't have to negotiate time and cost. It's all there lined up for you. And I spoke over the years, let's talk it all the way back to 2013, to maybe 1,000 artists about what they needed. And they needed a system where they can book professionals easily, where they can negotiate their rates, and where they can guarantee to get paid even if they get canceled. And so we built that. And the gentleman that built this company, Resonance, Ray Geis and Sean Christensen and Sooth Sean David, really built something beautiful and very, very functional. and I'm very proud to be a part of the project.
Well, that's amazing. So you just Google resonance artist?
Resonance app. Resonance app. It's in the App Store.
Yeah, it's in the App Store and people can find it. I think, this goes back to how much we have to adapt to the situation, but also how much COVID has forced every industry and actually a lot of professionals in their own career to accelerate what were necessary developments, transformation, or even revolutions. So that had to come at one point. You were too early, and now all of a sudden you were forced to go back to it and anticipate from other people. And I think this is very inspiring. You are also probably teaching voice at one point too. How is it to teach someone when you are not in the same room, when you cannot feel the chest and the breathing?
It's different. Yes, I've taught a few lessons to folks over these days, especially using my technology. By the way, the Resonance app has video technology. It's better than Zoom, actually. It's harder because I find that when I listen to singers, I need to be able to track the resonance of the voice. And if I can't really know if the voice is resonating, I can only guess. And I can guess by what I see on the face, and I can guess by the formation of vowels. So it's harder, but it's still possible. It's not as good as being in person. So I will add, though, that one-on-one sessions with people with distance, I don't think is unacceptable right now. It's large groups of people. I think we can get back to one-on-one sessions where a teacher is working with a student maybe 6 to 10 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't see the problem with that any longer.
Right. And again, it depends on where area you are. It depends on.
Of course, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And listen, if you're an individual that is high risk, or you're overweight, or you have health concerns, you have certain comorbidities, of course you're not going to do it. But if you're a healthy individual, you don't have any underlying health concerns, you're in good shape, I don't see the problem in you entering a room and standing 12 feet away from another professional and coaching with them. I just don't see it, especially if one of you or both of you are wearing a mask.
Right.
I don't see the problem.
So when we were on stage together in Avery Fisher Hall for the Turco Gala, and we started rehearsing together this marathon of arias, I was right away impressed by the beauty of your voice, the quality of the timbre, and also how well prepared you were in each specific aria, and you found a very different color in each aria, and you had this kind of pose but very charismatic presence on stage. Of course, it takes years to get there. What was your, and this is a question I've asked to almost all your colleagues, and this is my favorite, I mean, maybe not favorite question, but it leads to the best answers in general. What was your first contact with music? What made you know you were going to be a singer?
Ooh, two huge different answers.
Different questions.
Two different, and I know I'm happy to answer both. Believe it or not, the first experience with music was watching my aunt sing Così fan tutte in a performance in New Jersey when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And
I
don't remember.
Which role?
I don't remember much of it, honestly.
Right.
But you asked about the first, so that's the first I remember. But the answer to the second question, which was, ask me the question so I answer it directly again.
The question was, what made you know that you had a voice and that you were going to be a singer? And this is probably over a certain period of time.
No, it's a great question, and it's a really good one for the public to know. I was studying at the University of Michigan. I was 18. My intention was to go to business school. I had no goals or ambitions to be an opera singer when I entered the University of Michigan. And George Shirley, who was my teacher, famous African-American tenor, the first African-American tenor to sing at the Metropolitan Opera, was teaching me voice. It was something I was pursuing at the time as I thought a minor, not as my major degree. And yes, I had to study music. It was part of my acceptance into the school. George gave me a B at the end of my first semester studying with him, and it ruined my GPA. It just crucified my otherwise great GPA, and I did not qualify for a merit-based scholarship. And I remember walking to his studio right at the beginning of January and knocking on the door and saying, "Professor, how could you do this? I know that you gave all these other students in our studio an A. Every other person I know got an A for studying voice. Why did you give me a B?" And he said, "Michael, you have a talent that has not been in this studio before you, or doubtful that will ever come after you, and you're not living up to your standard. You're not living up to your potential. You're not working hard enough. I don't see you studying hard enough. You're not doing what it takes to be great. You're just doing what it takes to get by. And getting a B is fortunate for you. I should have given you something worse." And it was that moment, it was that kind of spark moment where I realized, someone actually does see that the talent is greater than I believe it is. And I will say that I did 180 degrees. And from that moment on, I went like a rocket into studying. And I think I was the last person in the library every single night until I graduated. I became a fanatic of Donizetti in those months. I think I studied and read 26 different Donizetti scores cover to cover. I know them all, some of the ones that no one even knows. And my mind changed, because when someone is given a moral imperative that strong, it can be life-changing. And that was the life-changing moment for me.
But the voice needs to change with the mind. So you had already what was your voice then? It was a young lyric tenor voice. What was it?
It was a lighter lyric tenor voice that was very rough. And I have recordings. I made a record for my parents that Christmas of maybe 4 pieces of music. Ave Maria, I don't remember, something from the Messiah, whatever it was, on a cassette tape, by the way. Yeah. And when I listen back to it, I think, wow, even then I had a greater capacity than I thought. And then I even walk it back further. And when I was in high school, I went to Catholic school, and I was always singing in Catholic school. My music teachers always said that I was very talented, but I never valued it the way that people saw it. I never thought of it as my pathway. And it was always in front of me, but no one had ever given me that strong punch to say, "You've got it. You're not owning up to it." And I think I just needed that kick in the rear to really go for it.
So before that haha moment came with, the whip of the B, what did you think you were going to do? I mean, you were still studying music, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you were going to be a music teacher or a trumpet player?
No. My goal, and it still is one of my goals, by the way, was I'm a big aviation fanatic. I know that I'm going to sound like a big nerd, but I'm a pilot. For people that don't know that out there, I fly planes. What I wanted to do all of my young life was either enter the aviation industry or the automobile industry as an executive. That's what I wanted to do. And it was why I wanted to go to business school, and it's why I wanted to fly planes, because I know an immense amount about the transportation world as it is now. It's just my fanaticism, let's call it, my side fanaticism. So that's what I thought it was going to be. And I had other things in there too. I mean, I care about my country, for instance. I care about the direction of our country and where it's going, and leadership. I've always been interested in what leadership looks like and what a leader should do. And that's why I wanted to go to business school, to learn how to lead. And I'm leading now. I run an organization for young children right now.
Can you tell
but I didn't realize that music was going to be that.
Right. Can you tell more about that organization?
Yes. Yeah. I co-run an organization called Artsmart. It's an organization that provides free music lessons to underprivileged children in 6 American cities. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we go into public and charter schools, and we teach children one-on-one music lessons every single week of the year, and with a very, very specific curriculum that we have written. It's almost 100 pages in length. We hire dozens upon dozens of teachers all over the United States. We pay them a very competitive salary, and they teach kids how to not just be good musicians, but how to prioritize. And so, you know, as I told you in my masterclass series, I've been talking about strategic planning. Well, in our curriculum, a lot of our curriculum is not music-based, it's goal-based. It's how to teach kids how to create goals and how to succeed in all of their classes. And so we create what's called a goal tree for children, so they can break down a big project into little tiny steps and realize their goal over the course of 36 weeks of education. So by the end of the year, they're able to perform with confidence, and they might be able to get a scholarship. And we've gotten lots of children into college that otherwise might not even graduate at high school. We have social studies, math, and English teachers now saying, thank you, Mr. Fabiano, for your goal tree and your curriculum, because now so-and-so is passing English, so-and-so is doing great in math, so-and-so is whatever it is. And it's purely because of this arts program. What's specific about us too is that we are one-on-one. So in light of COVID, unlike a program like El Sistema, where people are 60 kids to one in a room, we are 1-to-1 in a room. So the risk to a child and to a teacher is far more mitigated than it is for a unified big program. That's the value add that we have. We were looking at having almost 30,000 free music lessons to children this last year. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to cut our program short because we are in schools. And we hope to be able to offer the program next year, God willing, with schools opening. If we can't, we're working on delivering it in other ways right now. Obviously, we can use any support, artsmart.org.
Right. So that was my question. What's the financial model for this? Is it mostly?
It's donor-based. It's donor and event-based. And we have been grateful enough to win some grants this year for the first time that we hadn't been able to get in the past. We are a big budget. I mean, I have, obviously, as one of the co-founders, I'm Mr. Development. I have to raise money all the time. I think you understand what that means too. And but it's a noble cause. I think when we have causes that are noble like this, being able to talk to other people about how to financially underwrite a child who might not otherwise have an opportunity is an easy ask. It's easy to say, look, there's a kid that might not graduate school, who has witnessed gun violence, who only has one parent and the other parent is in jail. And we want to be able to help that kid. I'm going to give you a great story. Last year, I did an audition. I auditioned over 500 children last year for my program. And I liked doing that because it's wonderful to be able to hear lots of talent. And I know we only have limited time, so forgive me. I know I'm talking so fast.
It's fascinating.
But I walked into this school in the Bronx, and it was one of our new programs. And the music teacher said, I have over 100 students for you to audition today. And it was a new school, which was a huge number of kids to audition for just 12 slots that we were going to give to the school of year-round lessons. And after 13 or 14 kids, a child walked in the room. His name I'm not going to name, just for personal reasons. And he was on the spectrum, let's say. He had difficulty making eye contact, and he clearly needed new shoes. And he gave me an application. In his application, we always ask simple questions like, why do you love music? What is it that you're studying in school? Why do you want to be in the program? And he was the only application that I read that said he loved opera. And he was the age of 14 years old. But his voice had already dropped. And I said, why do you love opera? And he said to me, well, because it makes me feel good. I said, okay. And how do you know about opera? He says, oh, I watch YouTube videos until I go to bed. And I said, wow, okay. Well, who's your favorite opera singer? And he said, my favorite opera singer is Franco Corelli. And I said, wow, okay, Franco Corelli. All right, how do you know Franco Corelli? He says, oh, he sings this, and he sings this, and he sings this. And he went through this gigantic list of what Franco Corelli did. Okay. I said, well, you're auditioning for us. What do you want to sing today? He says, I want to sing Recondita Armonia from Tosca for you. And I said, ooh la la, okay. And my pianist said, okay, great, let's give it a try. And we started the music, and after 4 bars of music, me and all the adjudicators in the room were all crying immediately because the voice was unbelievably good. It wasn't, okay. It was surreal how incredible the talent was.
Mm.
And you can imagine if you heard something like that in a condition, in an environment like this, you would lose it. And so I stopped him and I said, how did you learn how to sing like that? Do you realize that you have an incredible talent? And he said, nobody has ever told me I have talent. And we were all puddled. We might as well had a lake of water on the floor at that point from tears. And I said, would you mind if I sing for you just so you can hear another voice for a moment? And he says, well, what do you sing? And I said, well, I sing opera too. And he didn't, the kid didn't know who I was.
Mm.
And I was wearing a black t-shirt just like this, and I had my glasses on at the time. I said, well, I'm going to sing Recondita Armonia for you as well. And I just sang, 12 bars of Recondita Armonia. And then he started to cry. And he said, I know who you are. You're Michael Fabiano. And I said, how do you know me? And he says, I watch your videos too on YouTube all the time. And I said, okay, listen, you have a chance to be better than me very soon and in very short order. You have to be in our program. Can you be focused? Can we count on you to study? Yes, yes, yes. And so, of course, obviously we have this wonderful student. And there are so many of these examples that you have great raw talent that are in these schools that are schools in horrible condition in the inner city. And it's very aggravating, by the way, to go into schools in New York in particular, where the schools are in distress. They're terrible. They're disorganized. There are cops every 5 feet that you walk. You have to walk through metal detectors. And you wonder, what are our leaders doing in these big cities? Why education is like this? Why aren't we talking about this? Why are we looking at Mayor de Blasio, for instance, and saying, why are you doing something about these schools where every time a door shuts, it sounds like a prison door shutting? And if you have to go to the bathroom, kids have to be escorted there with a cop. That doesn't make any sense. That's uncomfortable. Why do kids have to walk through metal detectors? Why are they in an environment like this? It's horrendous. I wish our leaders were doing something about that right now and giving hope to our kids. So that's what we do as an organization. We are giving hope to our kids. And I'm proud to be a co-founder of an organization that does that.
This is a very inspiring, very strong testimony. Can you give us again the name of the organization and a place where people could donate to that organization?
Yes, artsmart.org/donate. Artsmart.org. There's tons of information there for you. We could use any help you have. Thank you.
So talking of smart, I'm going to kid you a little. For a tenor, you're very smart. And because the saying in our industry, is that the brain is not there anymore because the voice has occupied that space. And of course, it's absolutely ridiculous. But you are not only a performer, you're not only a singer, but you are also someone who is very engaged socially, as we saw. You have this passion for flying, you have your personal life. How do you balance all of this, and how are all these things articulating themselves and not cannibalizing themselves?
It's a good question. People always around me are asking me to analyze it and help them. Balance is something I don't know the definition of. So that's, if there's a fallibility in my life, it's the word balance. I have a lot of things. I'm like a juggler that has lots of things in the air juggling, and I'm constantly trying to find the right ball to throw back up in the air, because it's the ball that's in the hand that I have to deal with often the most. So the goal is to try to get as many of the balls up in the air and flying, so they're flying on their own with other people dealing with them, and I'm delegating enough to them to handle the project. So when one ball drops in my hand, I'm dealing with it.
Right.
But sometimes, a ball drops and I have to deal with it too. Balance. First, I would say, is really great planning. And I'm an assiduous believer in a strategic plan. And if, you know, I've talked a lot in my classes about what I call the needs, wants, expectations, and threats plan, where I balance needs of my career, needs of what's in front of me, needs in business, needs in my foundation, needs in my personal life, versus wants, what I expect from all of it, and the threats that might throw chaos into all of those things. And I weigh them all. And if you looked at the wall in my bedroom in my home, you would see this gigantic chart of needs, wants, expectations, and threats, and how I'm constantly adjusting them depending on the year and the situation that I'm in. And I'm always trying to weigh family life, personal life, career, finances, all of those things, and which ones move along on the chart and how you move them. And the reality is that it's a moving target, but it's our responsibility, the individual, to constantly adjust that chart and know that you can't do it alone. So the balance doesn't come just from myself. I believe that one has to have a great team around them, that even though I am capable of a lot of things, I'm not capable of magic. I can't do all of this on my own. It's obvious. I have great people on what I call my own personal board. And sometimes I think I'm going to endeavor to a decision, and the decision ultimately, my board says to me, terrible decision, Michael, don't make that decision now. Don't sing that role. Don't do this project. Don't start this new business endeavor that you are already built a business plan around. Don't blah, blah, blah. And for a day, I'm furious and I scream and yell at them and I tell them that they're all wrong, but usually they're right. And I think there's only been one instance in my entire career where I bucked the board, and I will tell everybody what it was, which was I was to do Carmen in Aix-en-Provence, which was with Dmitry Chernikov, an incredible production. Mm-hmm. And my board had all said largely that they didn't want me to do it because they felt that it was too early for me to sing Don José. And my instinct was Don José will be an easy role for me. I really wanted to work with Dmitry Chernikov. I thought going to Aix-en-Provence was going to be an exciting, beautiful time, a little more relaxed than being, say, in Paris or somewhere else, a little more exposed. And my board was 7 votes against 2 to not do it. Let's just say that. I have 9 people on my board. And I said, no, I'm overruling everybody. I'm doing a full veto. And I went, and it was a huge success. And everybody said to me, okay, sometimes your instinct is right. But that was the only case when my board was overruled. Other than that, I've always listened because I think it's important to have other people having a very strong check on your decision-making.
Right.
So it keeps you honest. It keeps you honest.
Right. So I didn't realize you actually had a board like this.
I mean, is it a board like that they're paid? No. But yeah. They're a teacher. It's a coach. It's a conductor. It is my manager. It's a publicist. It's a person that has nothing to do with opera. It is my accountant. So they all matter to me, and they all know everything that I'm doing. It's my attorney. All of them know.
Right.
And I'm always keeping them aware. They're on a very private channel. They know what's going on. It's part of planning for me.
Right.
You
so
know,
I saw on TV that Carmen, and I think it's a brilliant production, and you are a formidable Don José, as we know.
But you understand my French? Was my French okay?
I understand your French, and it was parfait. And Don José, the difficulty of Don José is that the kind of tenor you need for La Fleur is a different tenor you need in the 3rd act in the Mountain, and a very different tenor you need in the 4th act. And the whole question is how you negotiate all of this. And that production actually was also helping this. And talking of, let's go back to voice. What are the roles you would like to sing? What are the roles you would like to sing and you know you will never sing? Or what are the roles you know you will sing in 5 years, 10 years?
Great questions. And I will pass on the question about what roles I will never sing because I don't like that question. I think that I might be able to sing everything someday. It's just, but what I always say to that is, in certain cases, one doesn't go to the role comes to them. Mm-hmm. So I will pass that. I'm pass on that one.
What are, Michael's, the role you would like to sing in the next years? Where do you think your voice is going, and what's the new repertoire for you?
I see myself moving in the direction of spinto tenor from being just a lyric tenor. And I really have felt that my voice has made a shift in the last years, and navigating the shift is a big job, by the way. It's bigger than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
When a voice is shifting and changing, it requires immense amounts of study. I've spent more money on coaches and teachers in the last 2 years than anybody can imagine. But it's necessary to do in order to stay focused on the repertory and keep my voice at least in shape, and conscious of the fact that things are changing and every day it's not going to sound great. But the goal is always trying to climb the mountain, even if I dip in the valley a little bit. So Gustavo, I do for the first time in Ballo in Maschera. I do Cavaradossi for the first time this year. In the next years, there are roles like Pic Dame that I'd like to try. Most of the Verdi operas that I haven't done, Masnadieri, Battaglia di Legnano. I hope that I'll be able to do Simon Boccanegra someday. I've never done it. I wish no one's ever asked. Many more Louisa Miller I would love to do. I've done Louisa Miller a lot. Things like that.
French?
French, I love Massenet, so all of the Massenet, as many Massenet as I can. Massenet suits my instrument very well. Mm-hmm. I believe that there are certain roles in the dramatic or the spinto repertory that one doesn't go to, but those roles come to the individual. So like the big O, as I would say, by Verdi. That role comes to you, you don't go to it. If it comes to me someday, I'll do it, but I don't know. Canio, for instance, I think is the easier role of Pagliacci and Cavalleria Rusticana. People usually would think the inverse, but if you think about the orchestration of Cavalleria Rusticana, it's a lot heavier than Pagliacci. It just is. So if I'm to do one of those, I would do Canio before I would do Turiddu, for instance. Mm-hmm. And I would like to sing Canio someday, sooner than later. Andrea Chenier. I definitely want to do Chenier in the next 5 years, and that is coming.
Well,
Adriana is coming. Adriana's coming. It's scheduled, for instance. So a lot of those things are coming down the pike.
Right. Well, Michael, this is very impressive, and we certainly hope your other projects, then being a singer, are going to be successful, but not successful enough to take you away from the stage where we absolutely need you. And as you were saying, there is no contradiction between the two. You can have both career, or you 3 or 4 careers going on together.
The day will come. The day will come.
The day will come, and I it's so strange, you know, we are in the same houses at the same time, but we are never really working together. And I think we should, yes, exactly, we should do that. We should
come together and do some project together. Come on, maestro, let's go.
Let's organize this. The time is gone. I let you prepare for your traviata. I guess you have a traviata tomorrow. Thank you so much for making the time. One of the good things about doing these conversations is that I can finally talk to my colleagues, because I've never time to talk to my colleagues. And this was a very inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Michael. Good luck with everything.
Great to be with all of you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.